I laminated this stringerless mid-length with carbon fiber, and I think it's going to be the ultimate California board. My cousin wanted a new surfboard for his birthday, and he's a bigger guy, like 6'4", probably 230 pounds, and he wanted something that he can paddle on and surf pretty easily, and so we decided on this 8-foot mid-length, and I'm pretty stoked. Like, I really wouldn't say this lightly, but like, I think this could be, like, I need to make one for myself, but I really think it could be like the best all-around board for Southern California. I know mid-lengths are pretty popular now, but I always kind of viewed them as like beginner boards or fun boards. They didn't really have like much of a place, but you know, I transitioned to longboard all the time because it gets so small around here, and this idea of having something that's like longer, has more volume than a normal shortboard or a groveler, but still is pretty maneuverable, is pretty appealing to me. And per usual, I opted for the 3-fin setup. I just like how it's a little more stable, and I feel like it drives better through turns, and I can also make like tighter turns, like just different turns. I don't have to go as straight as I would with like a twin fin. So I think most people would assume if you're going to wrap a board with carbon fiber cloth, like more than just a strip, that you have to do it with a vacuum bag. And I'm sure there's advantages to that, but I guess the disadvantage is that there's a lot more waste, and it's also significantly more expensive to do it that way. So this is going to be the second board that I've laminated with carbon fiber. And I feel like a lot of people just misunderstand the material. I hear all the time like, oh, it's super hard to work with, like impossible, or it makes the board too stiff. I feel like these are really just misconceptions from my point of view. You know, it took me a couple tries to get this to wrap the rail and go down, but I just put, you know, a little more resin on it and waited for it to tack up, and it went right down. And then I hear a lot too about, you know, people think carbon fiber makes your board more stiff, but I really think it's more just about how you use the carbon fiber. The cloth that I'm using here is a unidirectional or one-directional fiber, like it just goes from nose to tail, there's no cross weave. And I think that's what most people use, and I think that's honestly where most of the stiffness comes from. So like my board here, in theory, is going to be, you know, pretty strong nose to tail, like you couldn't break it in half, but then torsionally or the twist in it is actually pretty flexible because there's no weave holding it in place from side to side. It's just being held in place from top to bottom or nose to tail. The other thing that I see a lot is people put carbon fiber on the bottom of their surfboard. And if you want flexibility in your board, like that's a mistake in my mind, because carbon fiber, the strength of it is that it will not pull. Like it's so strong, it has so much pull strength, so you know your board wants to flex from the bottom. And if you put carbon fiber there, it just gives it like no give. Your board just will not want to flex that way. But you know, if you put it on the deck like I do, it's not pulling on the deck when you do a turn or something. It's actually just giving it a little bit of extra reinforcement, particularly for like pressure dings and stuff. The other thing that I like to do is reinforce the rails, and it's because I was watching this video where in Europe they were making single brick walls with a kind of a wave back and forth that were actually stronger than the double layer brick wall. And because of the curve, the back and forth curve, for some reason, like the engineering of it makes it stronger, and you can use less brick than the double layer brick wall. And I think the same thing applies here, like reinforcing the rails with the carbon fiber, just with a little bend in it, gives it that extra strength. So resin tints are pretty common or popular these days, and I asked my cousin if he wanted one because I like to just put like a little something over the black so your wax doesn't melt as quickly or as easily. And of course he wanted a military green or forest green one, so just going ahead and putting in a little inlay, resin tint inlay here. I've come to understand that sanding is probably the hardest part of the whole board building process. To the guys that can go through this whole process without making any mistakes on your first try, like, hats off to you guys, because it is not easy. It's a total craft. And I've got a couple of secrets and tricks that I do to cover up my mistakes and errors, but it definitely takes extra time, and I gotta go back and fix things. So hats off to the guys that don't have to do that. One of the most satisfying parts of this whole process is when you get to wet sand it and it just all comes out like nice and smooth and shiny. I don't personally have a mid-length, but after making this one, I'm like, shoot, I gotta make one for myself.